Hey church, today we are looking at 2 Corinthians chapters 3, 4, and into 5, but I really want to hone in on chapter 4 because I think it's really relevant for today. At the end of chapter 3, Paul is talking about how there are those who are veiled from being able to see and fully understand the glory of God, that there's an enemy who has been at work who prevents us from being able to know and respond to God. That we need help in order to do that, and that help is God's Spirit making Himself known. This leads Paul into talking about his own ministry, about how he sees himself as someone that is sent to proclaim the true good news of Jesus and His love and the freedom that comes in knowing God and His power, and that this is sort of his responsibility, that it's his job as a follower of Jesus to proclaim the truth and to help people to understand the love of God. And he says this, that he does this in such a way by not using secret or shameful ways, chapter 4, verse 1, or not using deception or distorting the word of God, but that he lives his life faithfully and hopes that some may come to know Jesus. And he says that even though the gospel is veiled, that people are naturally do not have it in themselves to be able to understand the good news. He still continues to preach, and he says, this is what we do. We let our light shine in the darkness. And he says that even when we suffer, even when we're rejected, even when people don't want to pay attention, he says this in verse 7, which I think is very pertinent for us today. He says, we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. And then he talks about this life of living faithfully for Jesus in a world that is blinded and veiled and often sort of aggressive to those who are trying to live for Jesus. He says, we are hard-pressed on every side, verse 8, but not crushed. We're perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. We always carry around in our body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may be revealed in our body. For we who are alive are always being given over to death for Jesus' sake, so that life may be revealed in our mortal body. He basically is saying that, yeah, it's hard to follow Jesus. It's not an easy ride. In fact, there are certainly lots of ups and downs, but he says, but it's not wasted. It's not worthless. The hardship that we go through as believers, whether that's through direct persecution or just experiencing the hard things of life that happen to us, it's not wasted, but in fact is to demonstrate that even though we are struck down, we're not destroyed. Even though we are persecuted, we're never abandoned. We have this greater hope, this greater life, this greater calling, and the things that we go through, well, they're important and meaningful. This leads him to conclude in verse 16, therefore we don't lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that outweighs them all. This is so profound because I think it's talking about how the things that we experience in this life, they seem like they're big and difficult. Whether even when we want to think of what's happening right now with lockdown and people losing jobs, or the gravity that we feel in our mental capacities to wrestle through what this all means. He says it's not wasted, and in fact, these are just light and momentary troubles in comparison to eternity, in that the things that we go through in this life are actually achieving something in us. They're bringing us closer to glory that far outweighs everything else, which leads him to conclude, so therefore we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Paul says that he wants to continue to live faithfully. He wants to proclaim God's truth to those whom vision has been veiled, and that he hopes that his life will be an example, that even though he may go through hard times, people will see the hope that is in him, the hope that is not wasted, but actually is bringing him closer to glory, and that they may respond to. So the question for us is, do we have the same attitude? Do we see the things that we're going through as light and momentary troubles? Do we understand that even though we may endure hardship in life or by simply being a follower of Jesus, that those things are not wasted opportunities, but in fact, they are ways to proclaim the goodness and love of God? Do we hold on to what is unseen rather than what is seen, because we know we have a bigger hope, a hope that does not disappoint? So these are the questions and challenges for us today.